Hi everyone, this is Keep Evolving. Welcome. This is episode 10 of season 2, and we are so glad that you guys could join us one more time. Thank you so much for keeping it here and always tuning in, subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting. It's a blessing to have you guys. And so, kama kawaida pale kwenye panel, I'm with Collins. Memzoya by now, yeah. And we have a guest today. His name is John Nganga, ama Nganga Njoroge, yenye ita kufurahisha. And he's a psychologist. We are so glad that we could have him on board to just continue with the discussion that we were having last week on trauma. Karibu sana, John.
Asante.
And Amwangeshi. So we are going to just be getting into the discussion today, and as I've mentioned earlier, we are getting deeper into the trauma topic that we started last week, and we felt that it would be necessary to have a professional give us guidance on the topic itself, as opposed to just giving our hearsay and zile vitu a guy told us, my friend, nini. Yeah, so first and foremost, we just want to start from the beginning. So what exactly is trauma?
Thank you very much for having me. And thank you, our viewers, for taking this opportunity also to watch, listen, and also contribute to what we're going to discuss today, trauma. So first of all, I must begin by saying trauma is one of many mental health illnesses that we have. So others that people are maybe familiar with could include depression. That one, many people talk about it. So people are maybe familiar with it. We have anxiety disorders, different ones. And now today, and many others like bipolar. So there are so many types of mental health illnesses that we as human beings experience. But today, you asked me to come and try to help us understand what trauma is, what causes it, and its effects on us as human beings. And so when you talk about trauma, there are various things that you need to know about a human being. Our ability to cope when we are faced by depressing or some traumatic events that happen, disturbing events that happen in our lives. So sometimes we will experience death of a loved one. Sometimes you might witness an accident happening and people are dying. Sometimes you are in a shopping mall and terrorists have attacked the mall and people are being shot and bodies are lying there. So imagine all those scenes, the traumatic scenes that you see. How does your body react to what you see, those disturbing images? And are you able to cope? How do you feel? Are you able to express those feelings after seeing? So from that analogy, then we can say that trauma is the ability or your body's response to those disturbing events that you experience from the environment around you. And so to further understand what trauma really is, then you must have experienced the traumatic events firsthand. First of all, it could be firsthand, meaning that you are the one now being affected by it. For example, rape cases, you are a victim of rape. That one you have experienced it directly. And maybe an accident, you are going to town and maybe there was an accident, you were one of the victims. That means you have experienced the traumatic event directly. Then there are situations also when you are witnessing. You're not the one that is being affected, but you're witnessing a traumatic event somewhere. Let's think about terrorism, because it has been common in the recent past. And Kenya is one of those countries that has been affected in a couple of years. Let's say you're in town, and then terrorists have attacked maybe one of the building and they are holding hostages, they are short guys, and you are there. So you have witnessed a traumatic event that can cause trauma, because those are disturbing images that you see. So the first one that I said, it's you directly involved, and then this time you're witnessing an event that has happened. The third one is when someone is telling you about a traumatic event that has happened. And this mostly is when a person is reporting to you about maybe a death that has occurred for someone that is very close to you. Yeah, it could be maybe a parent or a brother, sister, or close friend whom you know maybe was ailing, or maybe it was not ailing. This is the person who was very healthy. You could have talked with them recently. And then someone is calling to say that this person is no longer there. So again, you can get trauma from other people coming to report to you traumatic events. Then a fourth type is when you are working maybe in an environment where you are constantly being exposed to traumatic events, like doctors sometimes, those working in the trauma centers. You know, you have a person who has been through burns, you know, those you see those images, so they give you a lot of trauma. The first responder, you know, those responders to maybe accidents that have occurred, and so such situations or such events, they bring trauma to them, they cause trauma. So to summarize everything then, we can say after being exposed to those disturbing events, your body or your mind is overwhelmed by those events such that you are not able to cope. So it affects your emotions. You're not able sometimes to even express what has happened. It's like you are frozen because human beings, whenever we face adversaries, or whenever we come into contact with these traumatic events in our lives, your body responds in three ways. One, it's through fight. You can fight, you overcome, you try to address what has affected you. Probably maybe through communication, expressing what you have experienced. Number two, you can flee from it. You don't want to deal with it. Yes, and there is a time when you neither do either fight or flee. You're just there, so you freeze. So most of the times, people facing trauma, they freeze. So sometimes you even disconnect with your emotions. Yes, the emotions associated with trauma, you don't want to express them, so you suppress because you want to protect yourself from the pain. You don't want to think about and feel what you experienced. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's a lot, because I'm just thinking about how you've even mentioned some of the things that I was not even aware of, you know, like how trauma can be caused even by someone just breaking news to you, which means we need to be very careful, you know, how we break news to people.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you have in mind, Collins?
What trauma is?
Yeah, or maybe just to ask a question.
Oh yeah, there's something which you said about trauma. Okay, from what I understood, trauma is more of a response than the event. So is it safe to say that trauma is the response? It's your response, more the response and less of the event.
You're very right, actually. A very important question, yes. They say actually, trauma depends on how you interpret that event. So to some people, what you think is a traumatic event is not a trauma to them. It's not, because people have various ways of coping with what is happening around them. A person could lose someone, and well, they accept it's a reality, because at one time or the other, we are going, all of us, We are just passing.
Yeah.
We are passing through this world and we are going. So there are people who are prepared, always prepared for the worst. So such people, their interpretation of that event is very different from someone who is either in denial or doesn't want to face the realities of what is happening. Or sometimes actually trauma depends on how it has occurred. You see, if you lost someone who was not sick, who was very healthy, someone that you didn't expect to maybe pass on, you'll be so much traumatized than if you had someone who was ailing. And so, you know, maybe this person making it in life is maybe 50-50. So you're preparing yourself, you know, for the worst. So again, it depends. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it depends on how you interpret the events. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's very good. I'm actually thinking you've said something to do with what could be a traumatic experience to me may not be what you define as trauma. What then do you have to say about, you know, like how we deal even with each other? Because sometimes I'll come and share with you something that was traumatic to me, and some people, you know, sometimes are a bit reckless, so to speak, you know, about how they term something, you know, like if someone came and told you something and you think that's like, you know, like that's a very small thing, what then would you have to say about such kind of, you know, responses to other people's trauma?
One thing that I would say is we're supposed to be very careful with what we say, and especially when a person has gone through trauma, because most of those people are looking for someone
that can listen.
Yeah, that can listen. And this kind of listening is what we call the empathic understanding of what this person has gone through. And yeah, we make a mistake of trivializing the trauma that people have gone through. Again, because of how we interpret the traumatic event. Because what that person has gone through might not be trauma to you, or it might not be a big thing to you. And so you're wondering, why can't they be able to express themselves? Why are they drinking, engaging in alcohol? And why can't they, you know, form healthy relationships? You're wondering what is wrong with them. And actually, we make them feel crazy. And that's why they don't want to share what they are going through. And so it is very important for us to choose our words wisely when we're talking to them. And sometimes if you have nothing to say, just don't say it. Yeah. Sometimes it's just enough to be there listen. And let that person know that, well, I don't have anything to say, but should you want any help, I'm here, you can count on me. I'm just a phone call away. You can just call me so that we can spend some time together. Yeah. Just that is enough than telling a person, because I know we Christians, especially, there are certain comments that we make when people have gone through loss, and especially when you have lost someone. Maybe a husband, you know, a child, you know, a friend. You find someone telling you, you know what, God, we love this person, but God loves them more. It doesn't make sense to someone who is going through trauma. Yeah. Because the question is, okay, so
why did he take him away?
So God took him away because he loved him so much. Didn't he know that I also loved this person so much? You know, you see. So, and sometimes, by the way, this one, I know we are Christians, and but I must say this, sometimes people who have undergone losses, and especially those who have lost their loved ones, they are very bitter with God. Imagine you have a parent who have been ailing, and you've been praying to this God for many, maybe weeks, months, sometimes years. And then God finally takes this person. And then you are here as the first person that this person comes to talk to, and then you are telling them about God at that time. They are very bitter with God, and sometimes they don't want to listen or to hear you talk about Him. I'm not saying don't talk about God and don't bring the aspect of spirituality, but be very wise at what time do you engage this person in spiritual matters at that time. Because what they want at that time probably is to first of all reintegrate their identity, because sometimes there is there is that disconnect between them and the emotions, and they also have lost that sense of security. So for you is to be just there, just listen to them first, until now they are able to accept other kinds of interventions. Yeah, because that sometimes they are in that trauma, they are so overwhelmed. They just want to be in a safe space where you don't need even to talk sometimes. You just need to give them that kind of, I understand. No, sometimes we don't understand. Actually, there are things that we need to also avoid saying, that I understand what you're going through. You don't, because you have never been there probably. And even if you were there, the way we experience is very much different. So what you do, just be there and let them know that you care. Yeah, caring aspect is very important. Yeah, you care about their emotions. If they are crying, don't tell them to stop crying. In fact, if you have a handkerchief or a tissue or whatever, encourage them to cry as much as they can. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah.
So now that you mentioned how we maybe respond to other people's trauma, so we respond to them according to our knowledge, and our knowledge is limited. So maybe can you talk about what are some of the myths in regards to trauma? Yeah, because there are things which we don't really regard as trauma, and then someone comes, talks to me, and I'm like, "Hiyo ndio kitu inakusumbua." So what are some of the myths that maybe you've heard of or even seen? Yeah.
Maybe I have not heard of any myths surrounding maybe trauma, but generally on mental health. First of all, people don't know what causes. Many people don't know the causes because of our cultures, our religious teachings, and so many other things. Are bringing the understanding of what trauma is. Some people might not know it's actually a disease, like any other, like malaria or cancer. Like it's a disease that requires people to seek help and to seek treatment, intervention, maybe psychological or medical.
Yeah.
So that is one of the myths. Sometimes, sometimes people think depression, trauma, or mental health in general is caused by maybe sin. People think it's because you have sinned, God is punishing you, and that's why you have depression and so on. So if you believe that depression is a sin, what do you think the intervention is going to be? People begin to pray sometimes, that I want to pray for this depression to go away. It doesn't. And sometimes what we have is that, good feeling, like it's like it has gone after praying. But you realize, on a Sunday you're feeling so good because in church you have prayed and you think this trauma has gone. And you wake up tomorrow in the morning and again, you're not able to relate with people in the place of work. You have this kind of sadness that you cannot explain what it is. You're losing interest in things that you loved doing. You are isolating yourself from people. You are having, actually, whatever I'm doing right now is giving you other things that you should look for when to know that you have trauma. So I'm talking about isolating from people. I'm talking about feeling inability to feel happiness, to experience happiness and satisfaction, despite what you have. Maybe you have one of the best jobs in this world, you're getting good salary and so on. You have a good, beautiful family, but you're not experiencing happiness or that satisfaction. You are having nightmares. I mean dreams with themes that are related to the traumatic event that you faced. Or you're also having flashbacks. Sometimes those flashbacks, it's like a replay of that traumatic event that you faced.
Yeah.
And then you become so irritable. Sometimes, very angry. Sometimes, I talked about losing interest in things that you loved. Probably you are a supporter of Arsenal like myself. You're no longer going to watch games, and people knew you, become a fan, number one, but you no longer want to be there. Yeah, and you don't want friends. You're just there, and then destructive behavior like drinking, smoking, engaging in all those kind of behaviors that are going to make you even worse, to become worse. Yes. So I think there are many myths surrounding mental health, and it's good to understand. And sometimes even the problem is the people that we go to understand what we are going through, like the mental health. Those people don't have the knowledge of what mental health is. Yeah, because there are so many people out there who masquerade as mental health specialists, but they are not. They have not been through training, because if they were, they would be able to guide us very well. And so for us to really help ourselves, then we must engage professionals who will help us, debunk these myths, so that now we understand fully what trauma is, what depression is, what anxiety disorders are, and to be able to differentiate. Because again, if you don't understand what exactly you are facing, then even intervention becomes a problem. And there is one thing that I need to point out. There are so many young people out there who are taking medication for mental health. There are so many. Of course, I have been interacting with several. And self-medication for mental health, it's one thing that you don't want to do, because those medications, they can have really bad reactions to your body, and it can affect your mind. So you need to go to, if you need to use those medications, let it be done by someone like a psychiatrist who understands what kind of medication that you need. And sometimes you don't actually need medication, you need therapy. With therapy alone, it can help. But sometimes, especially when you have disturbed sleep patterns, you can't sleep, you can't function normally, you can't go to work because of the intense stress that you have. Sometimes medication is okay. Sometimes medication is okay, but make sure you're not self-medicating. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's important that we know that, it's not like how you just have a headache in the house and unakimbililia Panadol and your life goes on. These are things that you really need intervention, yeah? And so we're going to take a small break, and then we're going to come back and just discuss more about the causes and effects, specifically with the children and the teens, because I think this is an area that we need to really speak on, and a lot of other things that we'll be discussing. So don't go away, we'll be back.
Hi guys, welcome back. So we were just talking over the break, and there's something we realized. When John mentioned how we Christians sometimes make reckless comments, and sometimes you can say that it's sin. Remember the story of Job. Just in the first chapter, God was there commending, like God was bragging about Job, and he allowed all of that stuff to go. He allowed him to go through all that stuff. And his friends were there saying, maybe you have sinned. And we know very well, because we are the readers, we know very well what happened. So it really calls for wisdom for us as Christians. And be shrewd. In short, it's called a janja. You can go look for the parable of the shrewd manager or servant. I can't really remember, but go look for it. It's in one of the Gospels, and let's be shrewd. Let's be shrewd stewards. Because we are in the, how can I put it, in the generation of stewards. We are no longer. It's no longer a 10%. It's no longer a 1%. All of everything we have belongs to God. So let us be wise and shrewd in how we approach people. I really loved when you said you don't want to limit yourself to either secular or Christian psychologists Why? Because it really limits you, and I think that's a very wise thing, because we are called to be servants of all, regardless of their religion, their race, their background, and wow, it's really amazing. Yeah.
Wow, I love that I think I'd just like to emphasize on applying wisdom, because not just even to the Christian, but to everyone, really. I mean, I may not be able to understand what you're going through, and that's okay. Because sometimes I feel like we make these comments because we feel pressure, Una feel nafaa kusema kitu as the friend to this person, I need to respond. But there's something that has really been emphasized, and I'd really just like to emphasize on the fact that you may not always have something to say, and that goes to, the listener. If you are ever in the position of the audience, so to speak, you may not always have something to say, and that's okay. Sometimes you just need to sit and listen, and just ukwe tu hapo, just to listen. And if you have nothing to say, it's okay. You don't have to say anything, instead of saying things that are reckless, And so we'd like to just get into talking about some of the things that you can notice, some of the things that you can pick, because we've talked about the professional aspect and going to a psychologist or a counselor or just attending therapy. But how can we come back to the family setup? Because we majorly do these sessions for the family setup. So how can you just, identify and pick some of these things within the family, even, even if you're not a professional?
Thank you very much, because we are here to help each other, actually our families. Trauma can be everywhere. It can be in our families, can be in schools, through bullying and such things that happen that are so traumatic. I would say that from the word go, you need to understand as a parent whether your child has been through any trauma. And I just want to highlight some of them. If your child, because I'm imagining most teenagers are in high school, if they have gone through bullying or any kind of harassment, maybe in boarding school. Those of us who are there, like myself, I remember that those things used to be there. I don't know whether they're still there today, but of course we have heard of some incidences here and there of students who have been through bullying. That is one. Two, has this child experienced any form of emotional, psychological, or violence? Within the family setup or just within the community. And how has it affected them? So some of the things that you need to observe are what we talked about during the first, just before we went to break. Observe things to do with interests of your child. And right now I want to talk about, I'm a parent also, I have 2 daughters. And one thing about parenting today is that most parents are not spending a lot of time with their children. Because we have left other people to take care of our children. Sometimes it's understandable because of demands in the workplace. But it's not an excuse for you as a parent not to understand how your child feels, how your child thinks, how your child behaves. Because if you don't, then your child could be going through trauma and you don't know. Because you need to understand about the sleeping patterns of your child or the teenagers. Are they getting enough sleep? And if not, why? Where are they getting enough sleep? Has there been a sudden change in behavior? Maybe they are eating too much, too little. What about their physical bodies? Have they added weight all of a sudden? Have they lost weight? And also, in terms of their emotions, do you think you find them a bit sensitive, sometimes reckless, sometimes they're not able to control their emotions? They used to be very open with you. They no longer want to talk. There are things that they don't feel comfortable to talk about at that time. So those are some of the things that you should be careful as a parent to talk about, and take a lot of, or rather, be very careful or when the child, the children talk about, some recurrent dreams, some kind of dreams, because some of these dreams, they are related to a trauma or a traumatic event that they might have gone through. And sometimes it's difficult for a parent to know because a child lacks words to express what they feel. But through play, like a child becoming so aggressive sometimes with their playing toys and harassing other children and so on. Maybe certain drawings, art. Sometimes children can be able to express what they feel through art. If a child has been through parents, a father who is so violent, sometimes they draw their fathers akiwa ameshika kiboko, ama akiwa giant, or such things. So sometimes as a parent, you need to talk to this child and try to understand. Because sometimes it's a recurrent thing. That wanakuanga wakifanya. So you are supposed to, like, from that picture that they have, or from that behavior, that weird behavior that unaona inafanyika as a parent, then try to get this child to talk, akuelekeze. Why are you doing this? Why are you drawing this kind of a picture? Why are you drawing your father akiwa hivi, and why is your mom this way? So you can be able to learn from children what actually they are going through. And from there, I think you will be in a better position to understand whether they're going through trauma or something else.
Wow, okay. You have mentioned a lot to do with observation, so we can't afford to be casual about how people are in the house, because you never really know. And I think I'd just like us to maybe just talk about, sometimes we've had incidences where probably a daughter comes and tells their mom that their dad or an uncle raped them, and the parent is like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't make sense. How then do we go about such things? Like, how would you speak to parents about listening to their kids concerning such matters? Because we've had so many stories where the parent is almost sure that it's impossible for this person to do such a thing, and so we've had very many people who just altogether opted not to ever talk to their parents, like as a lady, not to even talk to their mom about something because she'll not believe it anyway. What would you talk about concerning such an incident?
Very important question there, and it is happening. It's a reality. Where there are so many incidents in Kenya where parents are protecting their relatives. And actually, from research, we know that those people who commit rape are people close to us. They are friends to these children. They are maybe uncles to these children, cousins to these children. But now we have a culture of trying to protect the image of the family. Sometimes trying, to trivialize rape. And as a parent, you need to ask yourself, when you do that, what are you actually doing? You are encouraging these rapists to continue committing those atrocities to other children. And these people should face justice. Whether it is your cousin, whether it is your brother, whether it's those people should actually pay for what they do. And I want to say this, if from the word go, you don't encourage your child to express the emotions. If this child does not trust that you're going to act, even after sharing what they do. Many of these children have gone through rape and they just decided to keep quiet. They leave that scar within themselves, they don't talk, but it really affects their emotions. Because imagine if you're a young girl and then you were raped, by that man. What happens when that time comes, when you need to have, relationships with a man? What does that? Because when you're talking about trauma, any cues that reminds you of that traumatic event that you faced. You try to avoid it. And that's why you find many women who have been through that rape, they cannot form healthy relationship with men. They always try to avoid them. And even if they get into those relationships, the intimacy bit is affected. They are not able to connect because, again, trust. They don't trust. Yeah. So parents need to be careful from the word go about encouraging their children to express their emotions, and them having that empathy to understand what their children are actually trying to say and how they feel. Actually, you should be able to ask your child how they feel about many other things in life, so that they know that you care. Because if there is a problem that we have, is a problem of expressing our feelings. You ask a person, how are you feeling?
I'm okay.
I'm okay. That is our feeling.
Yeah.
What kind of a feeling?
Everyone
Are you
will just say,
sad?
"I'm okay."
Are you depressed?
Yeah.
Are you happy? You know, that is kind of expressions that we need to cultivate in our children.
Yeah.
And also trust, so
Yeah.
that they know that if I share with my parent, they're
Yeah.
going to understand and they're going to act. So rapists, we need to make sure that they are punished. Yeah.
That's true. As you're talking this, I remember there's a case we were dealing with in hospital. There's this little girl who was apparently raped by the father. And now this father was in the forces. I don't know if it's the army or police, one of the two. And then the brother to the father accompanied the child and also the mother of the child. So because of privacy, we asked the uncle to remain outside, and so we were the child and the mother. So talking to the child, trying to open up, I also had to go out because I was a man. The doctor I was with was a lady. So it was that bad because I would get into the room and this girl would just freeze. She would just freeze, you know. And I love children. I've worked with children for a while and I love being friendly with them. But then seeing that even trying to approach, she freezes, she goes away. So the most interesting thing I found out is after the mother talked and the child talked with that doctor, this uncle, the brother to the father, was very protective. He wants this case to go away very fast. Tumalizane na history. Twende nyumbani, kuna dawa, you know. And the mother was very adamant. We need to involve the police. We need to call the police. And I can't really remember but how it went down because wakaenda. But the thing is, this mother, like I really thank God because this mom was firm. I need to have justice for my daughter, even if it's the father. And this is just an encouragement to you family members. Maybe you have you have witnessed or you've heard of your daughter, your son, even going through such kind of thing. Don't fear. Don't fear. If it's the father, don't fear. If it's the mother, the uncle, whatever position they have in their life, it does not matter really. Because when you behind bars, there's no governor, there's no president, there's no the common mwananchi. You see, yeah. And another thing is, when it comes to dealing with such our children and with trauma, we need patience, because it takes time. There's no time. I will just come to you and everything works out.
Yeah.
Even when you cut yourself, kikata skuma, it takes time to heal. If your body, which is flesh, takes time to heal, how much more your emotions, your mind, you see? So yeah, I think we have really got a ground of what trauma is and how it affects us, and even tips on how we notice. It's not only for children, it's for even our teenagers, it's for even us adults.
Yeah.
You know. So I think we need another session.
We do.
I think we actually do. And I would like for you to, even in the comment section, say something. Have you understood this? What questions do you have? Any question you have, feel free to share. Feel free to share this video with, you might have someone who came to your mind as you were watching. Subscribe and like this video. Yeah, unless there's any other thing.
No. That's the only thing that I will repeat. We're going to come back again, definitely. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for sharing so much insight. And we are hoping to do a next session on interventions, because we can't rush through this topic, and so we are so grateful that you guys could join us, and we are so happy that we get to do this with you. Remember to ask any questions. He has opened the space for you guys to ask any questions that you have. If you want them answered, if you ask, just ask whichever questions you have, and we will definitely share them, and then we can get a clear direction on the responses to the questions that you have. So thank you so much, and until next time, bye.
Bye.